Hey guys, Craig with JS Racing Products. I want to show you guys another small how-to video today. This one goes back in time a little bit, back to the JS Racing Products boost controllers, which were some of my earliest how-to videos in my channel. I want to show you today how to turn any boost controller, any manual boost controller that you may have or want to buy or even build into a dual stage. If you look back pretty deep into my videos, you'll see where I used to actually sell JS Racing Products single manual boost controllers, which were these. This is actually one of them. And then I used to sell dual stage version 1 and version 2s. Version 1 was where you had an adjustable wastegate setting with this, and when the controller was turned off, it would ran whatever your wastegate spring was. And version 2 was 2 of these, so you could adjust both settings when the solenoid was on or off. I'm going to show you how you could take, let me unthread this. I had it in there tight. I want to show you how to take any existing controller you may have. Like here's a crappy eBay one I had in a box. Here's one of my models. This is the one that's on the Porsche. That's the car we'll be doing today. How to turn one of these into a simple dual stage without having to be all fancy. I used to actually use different ends on the bottom here that had threads instead of a nipple, and I would actually thread these directly into the solenoid to make it all one tight unit. You can still do that if you want, but it's not needed. Really all you need is one of these solenoids, which I sell. I actually probably end up putting a link up on my website for these. I used to sell them and I stopped, but I could still do it. I also have a video on my YouTube channel that's pretty recent. It's within the last year, maybe 2 years, where actually, since I stopped selling these, I actually put up a video teaching you how to build your own. So we have you can actually make your own for pretty cheap, and these are hands down the best boost controller that I've ever used, and everybody who's used one says the same thing. They work phenomenal. Very good. All we need, if you don't want to make it into one tight unit by sticking a different brass piece down here, is some of these nipples. They come in 90s, straights, whatever you want, and they're pretty much, in fact here's some still in the pack so you can actually see what they come as. They're 1/8 inch MPT by 1/4 inch hose barb. So let me get picked up here with the car pulled in and actually get started, and I'll show you how using a solenoid off my website and any controller you can do a dual stage. Alright guys, so I pulled the actual controller I use on the car off. This one's already going to have the presets done right for this is already set for the amount of boost I'm running. So I went ahead and pulled this off the car. Now basically the way this controller works is you need the signal coming in from your intake manifold to go through this bottom port, and then this goes out to your wastegate. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use this solenoid to determine when the wastegate sees the signal, and if it goes through this first or just comes right from the intake manifold and run, what would be straight wastegate pressure without this in the way at all. So the way that this solenoid works is they're labeled 1, 2, and 3, and this would be 3, this would be 1, and this would be 2. The air will come in, the PSI or the for the vacuum line from your intake manifold will come in through here, through number 2. And then by default, when this doesn't have any power going to it, it exits here. And when power is ran to the solenoid, this gets blocked and it ends up exiting here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fasten this to this, like this. I'm just going to use a piece of hose to actually fasten it. Like I told you, I used to get fancy and use threaded brass pieces of thread right into there, make it all one unit, but I don't feel like doing that today. So I'm just going to put a piece of hose over both of them. That'll actually let that hang right off of there using the hose. And what will happen is when this has no power going to it, it's going to end up flowing air through here, and it'll work just like normal. This will be the adjusted, this will control boost. I'm kind of doing this backwards. A lot of people will hook it up the other way. They'll put it where it's like this. That way when the switch is off by default, it's wastegate. When you turn it on, you get the more boost. But the reason I'm doing this to begin with on this car is because since I've put this new setup in here, and those of you who've been following know all about this setup, I'm having trouble anything over like 20 pounds of boost in first gear. I cannot get it to hook. I've been on sticky tracks, I've been on non-prep tracks. You saw me do the 890s on that no prep where I spun you heard in the video where I got out, just like, well, it's doing that on even sticky tracks. This car is not a drag car. It has a street style suspension, cobbled together, homemade style. So I think the only way I'm going to get this thing to get down the track without spinning at all is if I run wastegate in first gear. So I've come up with a plan. I use a B&M Pro stick shifter, and what I'm going to do is that has two switches in it that tell it when it's in neutral so you can start, so the car will start, and a second one for when the reverse lights are on. And there's a plate in there, and I think I can weld a little nub so that the plate currently is flat when it's in first gear so it doesn't trick the switch. But I think I'm going to weld a little nub on the plate, and that way when I'm in low 1 or first gear, it'll activate the reverse light switch. Of course, my reverse lights will come on in first gear, but that's only for the first, couple seconds, like 60 foot or so at the track anyway. I'm rarely ever in first gear. And what I think I'll do is I'll have it so that when the reverse lights are on, the power that's triggering the reverse lights will turn on that solenoid. That'll give me wastegate in first gear, and when I shift into second and third and drive and whatnot, it'll go to the high boost. Of course, that's just my plan. I haven't actually got in there and looked to see if it's possible. One way or the other, I'm going to make it so that when I'm in first gear, I'm running wastegate, and the other gears will run the adjusted pressure with this. And hopefully that solves my traction issue. I only got one Friday left in the drag season at the track I race at. This coming Friday, weather permitting, will be the last time to go to a street event unless I leave the area and go to another track who may still run for a little longer in the season. Alright guys, let me get back to work here. I'll get this set up a little more and I'll pick up with showing you exactly a little more how I did it. Guys, let me show you how the configuration goes. It looks a little bit like a mess, it's quite a bit going on here, and you can tidy it up and make it better if you want. But mine actually happens to drop down in. This is where I've always had this controller, even when it was just a single one. That's why there's aluminum tabs here. I always just kind of had it right here fastened onto my rad support. And as you see, it drops down in fine and doesn't touch anything. So I can actually leave mine all long and hangy like that and still fasten it right back in. So this long hose coming off will go to my intake manifold, just like it always did. I reused the same one. This one actually used to go to the bottom here of the boost controller. And then what you have to do is you got to use a T-fitting here and join these two outlets together, because when the power is off to the solenoid now, the air is going to come through here, in through this, and up through this, and then it's going to come out here when the ball and spring are overcome. There's a ball and spring inside here. And when the ball and spring are overcome, it'll lift up, it'll let the air come out here, and it'll go into the wastegate this way. It has nothing to do with this, because this chamber is actually locked off and blocked when the power is off. So this won't even interfere. It'll still come right through here, go to the wastegate like nothing's even happening, like this is not even there. Now, vice versa, when you put power to this, the solenoid is going to lock the terminal inside here and only let it go straight through. It'll come straight in this, straight across, straight up this, and right out to the wastegate as well. And again, it won't go this way because this terminal's locked down here, the door shut basically, so to speak, so it can't interfere. So even though it looks a little bit confusing because you have a T-fitting and you're joining two terminals together, because this valve works in such a way that it actually locks access depending if power or no power is given, you can't actually have any issues. So that's how she works. Make any boost controller, any single or manual one into a dual stage. You can always email me or hit me up. I think I might put these solenoids back up on my website for sale because I do have pretty good pricing on them. They used to be like, Honda used to charge, I want to say 70 bucks for this valve. And I'm quite a bit cheaper than that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and install this on the car, and then I'm going to get the wiring sorted out. Now, since this is a solenoid, a magnetic solenoid, it doesn't care which one of these gets positive or negative. So I will end up just grounding one of these right out at the engine bay, and then only running the one wire in to my reverse lights hot wire down in the shifter column. And that means when I hit the, hopefully when the reverse lights are on, if that's the way I end up doing this, it should be low boost in first gear, or reverse for that matter. Who cares about reverse though? And when the reverse lights are out, should end up being high boost. I just got to take the shifter apart and see if it is possible for me to do that. The other option would be to install another micro switch all the way back at the base of the shifter there. so that when I'm pulled all the way back, I trick the switch and again put boost only to first gear, or I should say wastegate in this situation to first gear. I'll pick up the video with a little more updates when I get a little further. Alright guys, so I got it mounted down out here. I grounded it to the frame and I ran the one wire back through some looms so you can't really see it too much through my firewall. I'll show you what I've come up with. I realized that I have two switches in this. One is supposed to be for reverse lights and one is supposed to be for neutral safety. And I've never hooked up the neutral safety one. It's not used. Never even realized I did that. So, I also realized that this plate that it slides on is very slick. It's kind of like a stainless material. It'll be a little weird to weld. Might cause some rusting and stuff. So, I'm going to use the neutral safety switch one instead, since it's not being used for anything. And as you see, it's set for that when this one tab is raised down here. That's park. Then you got reverse, so it's not supposed to start. And then here's neutral, where it raises again. And then we got, you know, overdrive, third, second, and first, all in this little window. You can see the wear mark on there. The camera might not be picking up, but that scratch you kind of see is the switch, where the switch always slides. I'm going to put a little bump back here at the end for first gear, so it activates the little nub here on the switch. That's how they work. I think I'm just going to take like a little screw, maybe. I'll find a smaller one than these. Drill a little pilot hole way out there and run the screw in, and then I'll just have the head of the screw actually do the tripping of the switch, and then I can adjust it too by how far I thread the screw in or out, and then just lock tight the screw. So once I pick out a proper screw and get it all set up, I'll pick up with showing you guys how it works. Alright guys, so plan changed a little bit. I was not able to use the screw idea, mainly because I guess they make these shifters out of some kind of like tool hardened metal. They probably don't want them to bend easy when the racer's holding onto the thing and ripping around with it, so it seems to be like hardened. My drill bit wouldn't go into it. So I was able to actually drill through this little tin shield pretty good, and then essentially what happened was I ended up getting my welder out then, and see if I can get fancy here and even do a zoom. I stuck a dollop, just a little smooth weld dollop right there, and that makes that when that switches back into first gear, it rides up right onto it. I'm going to polish it a little bit more with some sandpaper, but that should activate this bottom switch that's supposed to be the neutral safety, and I'll tie that into the boost controller, and that should give me low boost in first gear. So let me actually get that hooked up and pick up the video showing you if it works or not. Alright guys, so finishing up the video, I've gone ahead and put the shifter back together. Went ahead and installed this old red light I had here. Comes with a line lock kit. Lets you know when your line lock's on, and I never used it for that. Basically what I've done now is I have it tied into the neutral safety switch, since I for some reason never hooked it up in this car. Don't even notice that. So what's going to happen now is the low boost solenoid will get juice whenever that switch is triggered, which will be in park, because that's when you're supposed to be able to start it. Neutral, that's when you're supposed to be able to start it. And now I welded that nub on, so first. So it doesn't matter if I get what boost I'm getting in park and neutral, obviously. They don't count. So let's see, I'll show you how this works. I've hooked this light up. So when the ignition's on, we're on low boost because we're in park and the light's lit up. As you see, when we go into reverse, the light goes off. Coming to neutral, it goes back on. Drive will be full boost. Third will be full boost. Second will be full boost. And first is going to be low boost. So when I launch at the track, it'll be like this. Now second, low, and it goes to high boost. So while that light's on and off, it's doing the same thing out there to that solenoid. There we go, low boost, high boost. So other than having that light lit up like that, when I'm in park and neutral, which bothers me a little bit, but it ain't that big a deal, it's not that bright. And how often are you sitting in the car with the key on in park or neutral? Anyway, that's it. How to turn, this video wasn't really about this, it's just telling you why I did it. The video is more about how to turn a single stage manual boost controller you might have built or got off eBay or anywhere into a dual stage. How you turn it on and off from the dual stage is really up to you. You could just use a toggle switch or whatever. Enjoy guys. Subscribe, share. www.jsracingproducts.net. Visit us. Bye.